Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here. Tonight, maybe I went one too many deep into the classic war games. This time I selected Fall Brawl of 1994. I wanted to see what was going on with Dustin Rhodes, teaming with the Nasty Boys. They honestly didn't have the best team to go up against, and of course that is Colonel Robert Parker's little stable, or it's I believe it's called the Parker Studs or something like that. It doesn't have the best ring of all, and they honestly, I talked about this, and I talked about watching the 95 war games with Team Hulkamania going up against the Dungeon of Doom, basically putting some of the best workers, or best known wrestlers, might be the best way to put it, on Team WCW, going up against a bunch of goofs on the other side. I can honestly tell you that when I look over this card, Dusty and Dustin, two guys that I honestly really could watch all day long. This is probably one of Dusty Rhodes' last big matches, and they really sort of tipped their hand at that. Basically, the fact that before Dusty Rhodes gets in to war games, they talk about the fact of how many war games that he's been in. He's been fighting this fight for a long time, and he wanted to go out there and he wanted to help his son, who was sort of getting picked on by Colonel Robert Parker. I think he turned down joining the group, but Colonel Robert Parker's group of guys is led by Terry Funk and Arn Anderson. But Colonel Robert Parker couldn't even get another guy to join his team. He had to fight for himself. And this guy was a goof, looking like, Colonel Robert Parker was a guy that honestly came off like Colonel Sanders from KFC. I'm sure he had a history of being some sort of a wrestler, but he was always that wussy kind of a manager that always got sort of pushed around and let his guys do the fighting for him. Bunkhouse Buck, aka Jack Swagger Sr., was on this team. I don't really know why Meng didn't fight in this match, but it honestly really wasn't good. This whole thing wasn't good. I really didn't know why the Nasty Boys teamed with Dusty and Dustin. I heard from Gemini that honestly Dusty Rhodes went into a bar and picked up the Nasty Boys to join them, but there was no pre-match sort of vignette or anything to sort of put the story together. So I've always thought of the Nasty Boys as heels, and they came into this. This match started out with Arn Anderson and Dustin Rhodes. For some reason, this match really liked using the space in between the two rings. At one point, Dustin Rhodes had Arn Anderson upside down and was sort of just picking him up and dropping him, shoving his head in between the ring. At one point, Terry Funk fell in between the rings. He was down there for a good minute before he got back up and found a way to get back into the match. I was never into this match. I will honestly tell you this. Kept on waiting for Dusty to get in there. For one good thing I can say is that the heels really knew how to cut the ring off, and then basically when the baby faces were going to even out the match, they always had like a 3-on-1 or 2-on-1 advantage for the guy coming into the cage to sort of cut them off and not let them get any momentum coming into the match. So give it up to them. At one point, Dusty and the Nasty Boys were able to corner Colonel Robert Parker, where Dusty Rhodes put the figure 4 onto Colonel Robert Parker, and then the Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags dropped elbows on him continuously until he finally tapped out. This was a very weird card. You had Vader, you had Sting on the show, but most notably, no Ric Flair, no Hulk Hogan, but immediately, there's no real celebration by the announcers that Dusty and the Nasty Boys and Dustin were able to get the victory here. Immediately went into the hard sell for Halloween Havoc 1994, saying that in a steel cage you are going to see Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. That would be a month later at Halloween Havoc. Coming to you from Detroit, the Joe Louis Arena. Very weird time, but it is one to sort of hang your hat on. Probably the last time that you were going to see Dusty Rhodes in a big match. And that's it. So, it wasn't that good of a match. It wasn't that very good of a show. War Games, 1994.